morning, everybody. Assuming it's working today, which is I guess, a leap of faith. We'll find out in a few minutes, I'm sure. So, assuming it is Thursday the 15th, and we're here in the living room with Loom and her kittens. And I tried to start this in time while they were still all, well, not all, but Chevy and Argyle and Loom were all out in the cat run. And you can see Argyle's still there. He's sitting where it's very hard to film him, right there. And the camera's getting knocked around a lot because Loom just wants all the attention this morning. She just wants so much attention from me. So Argyle's still out there anyway. Chevy came back in right before I could get the video going. And so did Loom, of course. Like I said, Loom just wants all the attention, which is very sweet. She is such a sweetie. And the minute I stop petting her, she's like, "No, you're not done yet. You are not done yet." We'll be putting the air conditioning to the test today. It's still pretty nice out, so it's a good chance for these kittens to go out there. But it's supposed to get pretty warm, so let's hope that new stuff holds up. There he is over there on that first shelf. You see the black? He really stands out being all black and white like he is, but he seems like he's very settled in, so I don't know if he's going to get up or run around or do anything else entertaining. This looks like a Chevy, kind of. Actually, it looks more like a Harry. All right, big blink. You got a big blink. You're acting more like a Harry, too. Let me take a look at something. Oh. No, you got to be Chevy. So, as funny as it is, one of the ways that I'm telling them apart reliably lately is by their Kitten virus. I know that sounds funny, but Chevy here doesn't have any of the ulcerations, whereas Harry does. So I was talking to our vet. I was just at the vet yesterday with Eddie, and I was talking to her about this Kitten virus stuff that's going on. And let's see, I didn't get a chance to weigh Chevy. I weighed everybody else. I got to remember this number so I can put it on the weight sheet afterwards. I couldn't weigh him because he was outside. Hold still for just a minute, Chev. All right, we'll put him down as 28.9. Anyway, I was talking to the vet about it and basically expressed to her the same thing that I expressed to you guys, that the ulcerations bother me quite a bit, but they don't bother the kittens at all. You'll see they're running around like crazy and just having all the fun they could possibly have. And, not a single issue. As far as you can tell, they're not even, ill at all, which is nice. It's nice to know that it doesn't bother them. It just bothers me. That's the way we would want it. I've also been noticing a little something. I don't know if this is going to stick around or if this is just something that is developed because of that. He's got a little pink on his nose, a little pink spot right between his nose and his lips that Harry here doesn't have either. So I guess that's a way I can tell them apart for the time being. Harry's just having a nap. Anyway, everybody's doing great. And I saw somebody ask if Eddie's okay. Eddie's fine. He was just going for his regular yearly checkup. We got to keep him up to date on all of his vaccines and stuff. And oh boy, did Eddie hate taking that trip to the vet. He does not travel well. He's a nervous little Eddie anyway. That's sort of his defining characteristic here, is that he's such a nervous cat and so scared. When we first got him home, when we first adopted Eddie and brought him home, it took us days to get him to go into the same room as the television because it was so scary for him. It was frightening. And he's just always been like that. I've talked about it before. It is what it is. Anyway, so he, just like you would expect, Eddie's tough to travel with, and we got him in the car, and he was complaining the whole time, and as soon as I pulled out into the driveway, hadn't even left the home yet, he peed in the carrier, and I had to switch the blanket. And so I did. I stopped, I switched the blanket, and I cleaned him up a little, and then we hit the road, and then by the time we got to the bed, he'd also pooped in the carrier, which is, that's nervous sort of behavior usually. Usually when that happens, it's more because a cat or a kitten is nervous about being in the carrier than it is about they couldn't hold it. It's more often that they're kind of upset, which is definitely the case with Eddie. So Anyway, other than that, he did great. He was fine at the vet. He checked out. Everything was very good and healthy, although he does need to have a few teeth pulled. So we've got him scheduled for a dental next month. But that's not unusual. He's otherwise doing great. This is basket weave, by the way. So to talk about these kids a little bit more, last night I gave them each turns going up to hang out in the master bedroom for a while. On the same note, trying to get them to get used to noises and different places and different experiences, with the hopes, they don't grow up to be little Eddies. Although I will say, Argyle's definitely on that sort of end of the spectrum. I'm surprised he's the one that's out there chilling outside, because he does seem like a bit of a scaredy cat. Oh, look at that. Now we've got 4 of them out there. Let's see if we can get a better view. 4 if you count Loom, I mean. Let's see if we can get a better view over here while I'm talking to you about them. I don't know if I can zoom in with this. I cannot. There will be no zooming. Sorry about that. This video client apparently won't do that. That's okay. That's all right for now. Maybe we'll look at the kittens that we can see that are actually up close then. But look, there's Loom's tail hanging down from the second little thing. Let's see. What was I just about to tell you about? Oh, I was telling you about taking all the kittens up to the spa or master bedroom last night, a couple at a time. So again, trying to sort of get them used to some new experiences and see how they do, being away from their mom in a strange situation. And I find that sometimes that can help them bond a little bit with us as people. And I also find that, it's just a good experience, practice for them to get used to new things, like I said. So it went pretty well. Let's see if I can remember. We started with, the first group was, I'm also getting battered by Loom here, who just cannot get enough attention this morning. So let's see. The first group last night was, I know we took a scared cat and an unscared cat, or at least my impression of them being that way, or a little bit. So I think the first group was Basket Weave, who is an unscared cat. He's one of the kittens that is, I think I've mentioned, just the most sort of lap-centric, one of the first to come see me every time I come in the room. I guess I don't mean scared, I mean sort of like people-oriented, And then I think in the first group we took Argyle, but I can't remember for sure. You know what? It doesn't matter. Let's not talk about the groups I brought up. I brought them up mostly 2 at a time, except Chevy, I brought him up alone. And the way it shook out was basically like you would expect if you've been paying attention. Little Basket Weave here was interested in hanging out with his people. And little Harry was interested in hanging out with his people. And then, Paisley was a little less so. And Chevy and Argyle were a little less so, but they all had fun with us. Argyle was the only one that even got off the bed and went and explored around the bedroom, which he did explore around the bedroom a little bit, but then it seemed like he got lost and didn't know what to do, and he let out these little tiny chirpy meows, like, what am I doing? Where am I? So I got and picked him up and put him back on the bed. And then he hung out with us. They had a lot of chicken baby food treats. They had a good time. And everybody enjoyed it quite a bit, I would say, in the end. I was surprised. I feel like Paisley has really been coming around. She's out there right now. That's Paisley right there. I feel like Paisley has really been coming around in that she at first was one that was a little bit hand shy and a little bit of a scaredy cat, just a little bit. But she's really starting to perk up as far as that stuff goes. And I can bribe her really well with the baby food. The baby food's working out great for trying to get her to be a little bit more people-oriented. I'm really happy with Princess Paisley's progress as far as that goes. And Harry and Basket Weave, of course, no concerns whatsoever. I think this is actually Chevy, though I said Harry. Yes, this is Chevy. Basket Weave and Harry, no concerns at all. Princess Paisley, no concerns at all. Argyle, still, like I said, a little bit of a scaredy cat as far as it goes. We're going to try to work him out of it, but he does do pretty well. He does take the treats and he hangs out a little bit. And eventually last night he settled down and had a good time. And that leaves little Chevy, who I'm surprised because Chevy is the cat that has been, historically speaking, the one that's been the most adventurous and also the biggest eater, the biggest in the whole group. He's the big cat. And he's also had the biggest adventures. He went to New York City, of all places, and spent one night, I guess, not a couple nights, one night there, away from everybody else. And that was very exciting for him. But lately, it seems like he's the one, well, I shouldn't say shy. You can see he's not shy at all about being here and hanging out with me. But I can't get him to enjoy any of the treats that I've given. Well, I say any. I've only tried the baby food on these guys so far. But he will not have it. He won't have the baby food. And that's interesting to me. And I really want to be able to bribe him with food. And I would think that having been the best eater basically the whole time since the day he was born, that he would be the one that would take the baby food bribe the best. But I guess it works the other way around. He's such a good eater, he feels like he doesn't need the baby food maybe. So we're working on it. I'll try some of the other treats on him at some point. But he kind of seems like he's sort of independent. He does his own thing. He reminds me of Millet that way, where Millet can be so affectionate sometimes. He comes up and he just snuggles with me and purrs, and he starts rubbing his face on my face and just being the sweetest thing. And other times you don't see him at all. He's off doing his completely own thing and not interested. And if you pick him up, he'll let you pet him for a minute, but the minute you put him down, he's off to do his own thing again. So I think Chevy's going to end up being like that. One that likes the attention, but is also just fine doing his own stuff. At least that's my impression so far. It's a little early to tell, of course. Their personalities aren't completely set, and a big part of what we do is try to encourage them to develop in the right direction. But there's only so much you can do. This brings me back around to Eddie. I know I've told this story before where DJ and I adopted him, and he was such a little spooky kitten right from the start for us that I thought his fosters must have done something wrong. Not something like abusive. I don't mean that. I mean just something like, they didn't expose him to enough stuff or something. But I don't think that's the case after having now fostered, over 250 cats and kittens myself. I no longer believe that they probably had anything to do with it. Some cats are just that way, and no matter how much you try to encourage them to grow out of it, sometimes they just don't. Sometimes they're just set as a very spooky little kitten, and they carry that through forever. And that's fine too, because Eddie is a sweet, snuggly, lovey, wonderful cat to have around with the most beautiful eyes, and we just love him to death. And if he's scared a lot, or if he likes to hide, and if kind of avoids conflict and stuff, and that's not a problem with that really. So that's my point, I guess, is that if Argyle does end up being just a little bit more of a scaredy cat, nothing wrong with that. He's still beautiful and good time. And if there's anything that we can do to encourage him out of that, of course, that's what we'll be doing until he gets adopted. So I know it's hard to tell these boys apart. I think I'm going to see if we have collars that will fit them today. This, again, is Chevy on this side and Harry on that side. And I know they're practically identical. Everybody's always like, oh, look, you can tell them apart if you look at this super subtle thing. But they're growing so fast that their markings move around and change a little bit. And if you're not looking at them next to each other too, it can be very difficult to evaluate whether one of these things is present or not. If you're like, oh, one's slightly darker. Well, you're like, well, you can't tell which one's slightly darker unless you're seeing them both. I think the collars are going to do them well for telling them apart. And I know I've explained this before, but the question does come up every time that we put collars on kittens. People want to talk about it or object to it, or say, oh, I wouldn't do that. But I've explained before why I feel like it's so important to do when you have kittens like this that are hard to tell apart. And the one reason is that it's important for me. It's good for me, even though I can tell them apart. I'm never very confident about it. And it's nicer for me to be able to tell them apart at a glance even. That's just a convenience. So that's important. With the orange kittens, it was necessary. Even at the very end, if there's a couple of them that if they'd lost their collars at the same time, I would have just a really, really hard time figuring out who was who again. So, with the oranges, it was super important. These guys, a little less important for me, but still useful. So I like it for that reason. But more than that, way more than that, I think the collars are important for kittens that are hard to tell apart on camera because I want the adopters, the potential future adopters, to be able to see them on the stream and to instantly know who's who. That way, if there's a behavior that they like or a behavior that they don't like, they can start to figure out which kitten is right for them. And if they're never quite sure which kitten it is, then, or if the kitten that did this today is the same kitten that did this yesterday, then you can't make those associations that are so important for a good adoption with somebody that is, already in love with the kitten. You can't form that relationship fully without knowing which kitten is which. So that's why I feel like it is super, super important to put collars on these kids. And as we usually do, if we do, I should say when I do put collars on these two boys, I'll probably put collars on the others, even though they're very easy to tell apart. I like to keep it consistent. If we're going to collar, one or two, then we try to do the whole family. And if they lose them, we might not worry about it as much as we would with these kids. But we try to do the whole group at once then, just to make it fair, and because they're pretty. There was something else I was going to say on the subject of collars. Oh, I was going to mention the fact that all the collars that we have, so sometimes we get people that send collars for the kittens that they've bought that are really nice collars, but they almost never fit because even the kitten collars that they sell places that are sold for kittens, they are not sold for kittens that are this young. They're way, way too big. You would be amazed how tiny these little kittens' necks are. One of our people that is a friend of ours that's been, watching and, communicating with us and on the Discord forever, _kitten, I'm sure you've heard of, made us a giant box of collars for the kittens to wear. And in fact, then sent us another set of even smaller than smaller collars for little tiny kittens. So we've got tons and tons of collars that have been made specially for really, really small kittens that are just smaller than anything you can possibly buy online. And when it comes to those collars, what I've been doing is when we put them on the kittens, I usually shave down the little clasping mechanism a little bit, so that they come off really, really easily. Because we're using them for identification here in the house, and we're not using them like to hold a collar tag or something that would be vital. We want those collars to come off instantly. If they get snagged on something, we don't want it to be any sort of a struggle at all. So I make them very, very easy, and sometimes they fall off. They'll just fall off all on their own, or with very little effort, which we prefer. We prefer them to be falling off all the time to being stuck on. So. That's to just let you know that we consider that safety to be the number one thing, and we take steps to ensure that it is. And then also sometimes the collars are going to come off, and that's normal too. No big deal. Look how pretty that boy is. Look at those eyes. Look at those eyes. Such a lovely little boy. Well, let's see. We've been talking about these kids and just watching them sleep. Well, meanwhile, we've got a fight going on over here in the S-shaped S between Basket and Argyle, who's come in. Oh, run away. Yeah, I know. It's scary. The camera's scary. I'm scary. Even you are like, you took away my play buddy. Oh, okay, Basker. You took away my play buddy. I'm sorry. Loom, you have so much to say. Yes, you do have so much to say. Tell us all about it, kiddo. Now Loom is pressing buttons on the camera. All right, Loom, come on. Sorry for the shaky camera. I've got Loom over here just insisting, banging my hand, and doing all she can to mess this up a little bit. She's being very sweet, though. I'd love an all tuxie class. DJ would lose her mind. She loves little tuxies. It's off topic, but I see Shiva Mordhaus asking, I got to know your thoughts on Starbucks. Well, honestly, I know it's not very hipsterish of me, but Starbucks has some really good stuff. Their Sumatra coffee is one of my favorite coffees. I often will stock the Starbucks Sumatra coffee beans here to use because it's just good and it's really easy to get. You can get it anywhere. So I like that about it. And I'll also say the Starbucks sugar-free vanilla. I've tried every sort of sugar-free vanilla syrup from every manufacturer in the world because sometimes I like a little sweetener in my coffee, and I don't use sugar or artificial sugar. I use vanilla syrup usually. And the sugar-free vanilla syrup from Starbucks is without a doubt the best sugar-free vanilla syrup that there is. So I'll say that too. And then, yes, I saw somebody, Jay Donaldson. There are duders who work for Starbucks. Yeah, I won't out them, but I will say some of my favorite people in the world are also Starbucks employees, just coincidentally. So I have to like them a little bit, right? Actually, that's not true. I don't have to. I'm sure they would understand, but I do. I actually do. Of course, I love coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. I take my coffee somewhat seriously, but I'm also not, I don't think of myself as somebody who's a coffee snob, because I'll use a flavored coffee, I'll put vanilla syrup in my coffee. I'll tell you another thing I love to do is when I'm making my little espresso puck, to put in the espresso machine, a lot of times I'll put a little bit of cinnamon or cardamom, or both cinnamon and cardamom, in the espresso puck, and then put it right in the espresso machine with the coffee, and then you get a sort of like a Turkish coffee kind of a deal, because it's got all that cardamom in it, like a Turkish coffee does, and it's really, really yummy. Also, somebody sent us a mailbag, and I never remember who sent stuff, but somebody sent us a New England coffee company blueberry cobbler flavored coffee, and I liked it so much with, I take some butter toffee flavored syrup, and I take the blueberry cobbler and the butter toffee syrup, and I put them together in a French press, and it is like dessert coffee. It is so yummy and sweet. So that's when I say I really like my coffee and I do a lot with it, but I'm not above doing flavors and stuff. And I know I've got friends that are real coffee snobs. one of the guys I used to work with was so serious about not, flavored coffees being evil and horrible. He brought, I guess he didn't make them I think he brought in 2 coffee makers to the office, and then he labeled them. He said one of them was never, ever to be touched by flavored coffees, ever. Because that would just ruin the coffee maker forever. After that coffee maker had flavored coffee in it once, you could just never use it again. And certainly I don't take things to that kind of an extreme. So I saw somebody earlier ask about Maggie. Oh, before we go, let's take a minute and look over here at our little princess who's taking a nap. Hey, little napping princess. Hi, sweetie pie. Anyway, I was going to say, let's go see the orange kittens and the faculty. But first, let's just take a minute with our little Princess Paisley. Hi, sweetheart. Oh, I love homemaking. Did you try the cold press coffee maker I sent you? If so, did you like it? So you sent me that thing that is a filter that goes in a giant mason jar, and then you put the coffee in there and you brew it overnight. And I do use it. In fact, I used it to make that blueberry cobbler once as a cold tea when our air conditioner was out, just like last week. So I do like that cold brew thing that you sent me. But I'll tell you, that filter and the mason jar, that whole setup that you sent is good for a lot more than just coffee. I've used it for the cold brew coffee a few times, but I'll tell you what I used it for that I really like is to make sriracha infused maple syrup to put on my waffles and for chicken and waffles. It's so cool. I put the sriracha in there, and that way it filters out all the little bits, and you get a real nice maple syrup at the end. And it's just, it's really good. All right, now let's go see if we can find the oranges and Millet and maybe even Maggie. If you want to keep watching these kittens, they're on the regular Kitten Academy live stream. Or should be. I've got the fence up so that these guys don't get together and start anything. Loom is still very sort of hissy. Now, I think I mentioned before, she'll run up at the faculty or at the other kittens, but when they are deferential and sort of run away, then she stops pursuing, and that's great. Or if she starts going after them and I yell at her, she stops, which is also really good. So she has the right kind of interaction, but it's still more conflict than we want, especially with these kids who aren't always respectful. This is Millet, by the way. And sometimes they'll just sit there and hiss back at her and be like, "What do you want, lady?" And I think that could easily turn into an actual little fight, and we wouldn't want that. So that's why the fence is up, because these guys are out mostly. If it were just the faculty, I might take the risk and try to manage it by following Loom around, but we'll get there. So this is little Millie, and like I said, he's a snuggle bunny. He really is. He loves, and his fur is so soft. But a lot of times you also find him off doing his own thing, which is nice. You get the best of both worlds. And then up here we've got the others. Here's Sydney, who's getting adopted with Millet. These two are going together to their forever home. I think it's so cool that they've gotten along so well and become excellent brothers, and that they're getting adopted together even though they're from 2 different litters. That's always a nice little success story. Hi, Sidley. And I think it will give their adopter a little bit of some different experiences too, because they do have very different personalities, these two. But they get along great. And then I just saw, here he is. This is the bird feeder. They're all over here kind of trying to watch. Here is Rotterdam, who's also getting adopted on Saturday. The age difference. Millet is just a couple months older than Sid. So that's the way it works out. They're about the same size, though, because Millet grew up very small, I think because of his condition. He's a little bit smaller than most cats his age, so it works out that way, too. In the long run, I think Sid will probably end up being much bigger. So there's our floofy floofer. Yeah, buddy. Little Rotterdam. He got his neuter. It's funny, too, because DJ's been calling him Cuterdam all along, Cuterdam, and now that he got his neuter this week, she's been able to start calling him Neuterdam, which is just ridiculous, but it works. All right. Hi, Millie. Millie's just over here looking at me. He's in that mood now where he wants some attention. Hi, pal. I hear Loom talking. Here's Ari. Hi, Ari. Yeah, what did you just say? Hi, Ari. Did you say something to me? He's not going to say it again. I'm not going to say it again, huh? Oh, well, there's a little bit. Oh, okay. Ari's got places to be. Well, I did promise Maggie. Let's just take a look. I think I know where she is. I think she's going to be in the spare room upstairs. So we'll go that far, and if we don't find her, then we tried. Oh, she's not. She's right here at the front door. Hi, Mags. You keeping an eye out for the postal guys? So there's our Maggie. Well, thank you all for joining us for this little close-up. I hope it was worthwhile. And we'll do another one soon, I'm sure. Until then, you can definitely tune into the regular Kitten Academy live stream and watch the kittens all day long, if that's your thing. Oh, now, you don't have to get so worked up. See, this is what I'm talking about, where the kids are used to cats like Maggie who are going to hit them, and they'll just sort of sit there and watch her and not really react too much, and that's fine. It is fine because they understand it and Maggie understands it, and she's just sort of trying to maintain dominance, I think. You know, who knows what a cat's thinking, but whatever she's doing, she's fine with the outcome there, and so are they. I don't think that would be the case with Loom. I think they might react the same way to Loom by not really doing anything, and she might sort of escalate from there, which is why we don't put them together. I'm glad Maggie gave me the opportunity to explain that. I know there's a package on our porch. It's not for us. They misdelivered it. It's for somebody down the street. I got to take it over there later today. The funny thing is that even though it's a different address on this street, the person it's addressed to is also named DJ. I did not know we had a DJ. Or for them, it could be a title. It could be, you know, like DJ Spins a Lot or something. I don't know what it is. So that probably explains why it was misdelivered. It's got some of the same digits and the DJ, but it's not for us. All right, well, let's see. I was signing off. I was saying thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate you tuning into this and watching the kittens, and I hope it was fun, and you can keep on watching them. And even if you don't, you can tune into the next little close-up, and I will see all of you later on.